You cannot keep a good man down. Well, it sounds good, but it's just not true. I think there's been many a man, many a woman, when it says can't keep a good man down, it goes for women too. I think it's very, very easy to keep a good person down. That's what I want to talk about. We're going to have a look at how that occurs. We're going to have a look at if this is you and you're being kept down, how to respond. We're going to have a look at two different kinds of people and how we're wired in order to identify what's happening in here and what's happening in here. You see, there are times that we can lower the ceiling on a person's life where they just can't move. You know, they trying to rise up and could be the opinions of folks, could be their attitude toward them. And that attitude, that perspective keeps that person locked up. It's a true story. A bear in the United States, I don't know where it was. I may have been Yosemite National Park, but nonetheless, there was a bear in a zoo. It kept marching one side to the cage, to the other, to the other, to the other. Well, there was such an outcry, they decided to let the bear go. They took the bear to the park, I think it was Yosemite, and opened up the cage. The bear walked on out, and guess what the bear did? The bear just walked this way, turned around and walked back the other way, the same length as the cage that it had been locked up in. Little goldfish was being fed food down the other end of the fishbowl. They placed a glass divider between the food and the goldfish. The fish came along to go and get its food this day, and because it bumped into the glass divider. Next day did the same thing. Next day did the same thing, until that fish had learned that food is not for me. Because they then took the glass divider away, didn't they? Fish came along, swam right up to where the glass divider was, and it turned away, having never eaten the food, and of course it died. The processionary caterpillar, so named because they follow each other in a natural progression, natural procession. Was it Fargray? I think it was, the naturalist, tried an experiment, lined up the processionary caterpillar. Quite a few of them, and they just did their march around and around and around and around they went. Because the pine needle is the favorite food of the processionary caterpillar, and so they placed the pine needle just a couple of centimeters or a couple of inches away. Well, they continued their march until one day they just all died. The food was just outside where they were looking. They had trained themselves in such a way they were locked up into their own procession. The fish was told that food is off bounds. How true it is to get locked up into either somebody's opinion or circumstances, things that have happened in your past that have told you, oh no, victory is not for you. Well, that's a terrible position to be in. So many people can relate to that. I want to say two things to you, and that is, number one, encouragement is the best form of motivation. Encouraging others. If you want to motivate someone, encourage them. Lift the ceiling, right? Change your attitude toward them. Change your opinion. Now, you might have the same opinion at the moment, but let them change it for you by lifting the ceiling of your attitude. Number two, affirmation without discipline leads to delusion. I love those shows like The Voice and so on, and you know, they're going for their auditions, and some poor soul goes to sing, and they just say, I'm sorry, you can't sing. No, get out of here. I mean, that's very hurtful. Somebody along the way has encouraged that person in the wrong direction. They couldn't sing at all. So there's a balance to all this. I would suggest to you that we be wise on the attitudes, the opinions we have on people, that we don't cage them like the bear. And then when they're let out, they just march up one side and down the other. If you're one of these good men or the good women that are locked up in the opinions of others, you feel, you know, that saying, can't keep a good man or good woman down, and you just know that's not true, then this is for you. I believe what we need to do is make room within ourselves. Some people just won't let you out. Well, you've got to let yourself, you've got to change within. Now, if this is you doing this to others, they need to take note of what you're doing to them. It's extraordinary how people will rise. You know, when you lift your attitude, you lift your opinion of someone, more often than not, they'll rise to it. They really will. But if you are that person that is locked up within, I would suggest you don't start the blame game. You can spend a whole lifetime blaming others because you're locked up. Well, I would suggest to you, the Bible says, to whom the Son has set free is free indeed. I have ministered in prisons to find many of those fellas are more free, particularly, well, when they've received Christ, are more free than a lot of people on the outside. Don't look for the blame game, look for solutions. And let me tell you something, I've learned this. Return criticism with love. You know, a quiet word turns away wrath. What you want to do is you want to respond to people in love. There are three kinds of love predominantly mentioned in the Bible, and that is agape, unconditional love, phileo love, friendship love, and eros love, which is erotic, sexual love, or exciting type of love. And phileo love is powerful. Because what you do is you do something kind. You put it out there and let that person pick it up. When you allow a person to pick up your kindness, you call on kindness. Why don't you call on love, call on kindness, call on peace, call on joy, call on favor, but going out and doing something kind for others. Even that person that has got you, right, you're feeling down because of that person, why don't you do something kind? I'd like to talk to you about two kinds of thinking. Now, we think all sorts of ways. I've identified two. Now, you should know that this definition that I'm going to show you, that I'm going to read out to you, was written by myself over 25 years ago. I submitted it to a number of doctors, we call them here in Australia general practitioners, and also two psychologists and a psychiatrist, to see what they had to say. Well, they were so thrilled with it, they believed it was so good, that they to this day use these two definitions in their counseling or their understanding of others. I'm talking about optimism and pessimism. Now hold your thinking, because you've already got your opinion of what an optimist is and what a pessimist is. I'd like you to consider this, that 85 to 87%, I think it's 85% of people's self-talk is negative. I was talking to a general practitioner some years ago who said to me, if they could cure the way people think, this is true, they would lose 80% of their practice, of their business, 80%, all because of here. If they could cure that. You can get a pill for a headache, you don't got no pill for the way we think. Okay, so the first is a pessimist, and then we're going to have a look at an optimist. I think you might just be a little bit surprised. Now, these are word specific. I've chosen these words. I hope they resonate with you, and perhaps have a look at yourself. Just be transparent with you for a moment, because your behavior, your attitude, your ways affects other people. I like how Prager says happiness is an obligation. Wow. You know, you ever grew up in a family where, you know, everyone's fighting? You just wish they were happy. You go to work tomorrow and you got to sit beside somebody who's just negative and pessimistic all the time. You just wish they could be happy. Happiness is an obligation. I believe he's right. Have a look with me at a pessimist. A pessimistic person will become caught up in the problem and expect a negative outcome. And so outcomes are always a matter of defeat. No matter what the outcome, they will never be satisfied. And failure will become a lifestyle rather than an opportunity to learn. I was in a group of people once and I asked everybody who likes to win, who likes to succeed. And well, everybody put their hand up, of course. I asked the question, at what point in your life did you learn the most? Well, one by one told me, well, they really learned when they failed. I asked the question, who likes to fail? Well, nobody responded with yeah. I mean, they all wanted to succeed. I said, but hang a bit, you just told me that you learned the most when you failed. Who likes to learn? And everybody said, yeah. Well, sounds to me like you need to embrace failure as an opportunity then. That failure is an opportunity to learn and grow within, not to put it on other people. You know, the only person you can control is you. You control you, you're halfway there. Let's have a look at an optimist for a moment. Now, be honest with yourself. An optimistic person will become caught up in solutions and look for outcomes. They are outcome orientated. They are conscious of their own ability and do what they can do to better their own situation. An optimistic person is very practical and believes in hope. I want to pause there. Hope means a confident, eager expectation of good. Right now, before I finish this definition, an optimistic person is not somebody that is on, steroids or hyperactive. We're talking actually about a very balanced, focused individual here. All right, an optimistic person is very practical and believes in hope, not because it happens on its own, but rather it becomes a way of life. Their thought life is upbeat and never over the top. They are solution orientated. They are fixed on reaching their goals, no matter how small. I love that. They have learned that some things come to those who wait, and other things cannot wait to happen. They have learned most of all to be in control of their own thought life and find solutions rather than finding defeat. What are you looking for? Are you looking for defeat or are you looking for a solution? That's going to determine predominantly whether you're an optimist or a pessimist, whether you can weigh things up, whether you're going to put a ceiling on yourself, put a ceiling on others, or whether you're going to lift the ceiling, even if it's a little bit. You see, you could be a pessimist in disguise. Nobody likes to say I'm a pessimist. But I tell you what, if 85% of people's self-talk is negative, it doesn't say too much for all of us, really. 85% of, our self-talk is negative. That's not helpful. If you can bring that back, this same general practitioner, doctor, said if a person was able to bring that back, claw it back to about 50%, they would increase the successfulness and the influence and their state of mind, exponentially. So there's a lot to be said for how we think. You cannot keep an up man down. Well, yeah, you can. That goes for women too. We can keep ourselves down. Don't allow the opinions of other people to lock you up in prison in your own mind. Don't allow the past to be a situation that's constantly, going over in the mind where you just can't get out of it. Don't do that. People really can only do that to us when we give them permission to. Unfortunately, we give them permission all too often. And that is to lock you up, to be that bear, to be that fish, to be that processionary caterpillar that just goes round and round and round. You don't want to be like that. All right, why don't you take courage right now and do something you've never done before, to get something you never had before. And, as the Bible says, let the oppressed go free. Free in your mind. I'm not talking about being free of people. I'm not talking about rejecting people. I'm not talking that you should go up to somebody and say, you've kept me locked up and wrecked it. No, I think what you should do is respond in love. Respond in kindness. Take control. You don't take control by rejecting people. You take control by being in control of you and how you respond. I hope that just in this little while, this has caused you to think about how you think, right? That how you behave toward others has an enormous bearing on their life. And I hope that you'll be free within your own heart, or with your own mind, that your heart will be made soft and your mind would be made clear. If you're a Christian, go to the Lord even now. Say, ask him to forgive you for where you have kept others locked up. But if you are within yourself, and lay that at the feet of Jesus. Say, dear Heavenly Father, lift me up to where you